Hey, chums, welcome to the Game with Chums podcast. I am your host once again, the immaculate, spiritual, sexual Paulie C. And with me, as always, is my, um, doner kebab, the night out, the chips at the fish and chips.
Oh, if this is a
Like
good chippy though, that's those are good chips.
I tell you what, where I live, and you know the area quite well. I went to the local doner kebab place next to the fish and chip place on the high street, and they do the worst chips ever.
That's like a
I d-
cardinal sin. Chips are like
yeah.
simple. Get the chips right.
I mean, I'm not the only one to say this. Like, I had chips there, and then the other night, my girlfriend came over and she bought the same chips from the place, and she was like, "These are the worst chips I've ever had."
And did you
And
then
it,
say, I know? And then she said, why didn't you let me buy them then? Because that's what I would
well,
say in that
she she
situation.
she got. I wasn't with her. She got an Uber, and then she popped over to the chippy, and she was like, "I bought chips." And I was like, "Oh God, where did you buy them from?" And she was like, "Oh, the kebab place." I was like, "Well, there you go. Your first mistake
Throw them
there."
in the bin.
Yeah,
Straight in the
she
bin.
she had like four or five chips and was like, "Oh, I don't like them." I was like, "Oh, well, all right, then fair enough." But yeah, not great chips from where I live. So sort it out.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad
One
times.
of
But
life's essentials that you need good chips.
yeah, I agree. This is where we agree. We don't agree on many things, Senor Rules, but we
But
do
chips is
agree on
a,
this. Chips is a staple of the
the
British
British
Isles.
experience.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, how are you, man? How's it going, man?
So,
How's it
so
going, dude, lad, person,
can I
freak,
can I speak now?
geezer? No, I'm not done like naming, going through all the
All the
terminology.
permutations.
That's the one, yeah. But yeah, yeah. How you doing, man?
So I've been ill all week, which sucks.
Can
Uh,
I can I
just
stop you there? Like, let the people know what the doctor said to you.
oh yeah, she told me off for getting sick. I won't go into
Yeah.
too much detail. She told me off for getting sick,
Mm,
and then told me off for seeing my nephew, who is 3 years old, and obviously
mm,
goes to nursery and picks up illnesses like their
mm,
Pokemon, which is what little
mm.
kids do. And
Yeah.
then I said, oh yeah, I've got a three-year-old nephew. He picks everything up and then passes it on to everyone. And she's like, oh, well, maybe you should see him less. So it's like, I said this to her as well. I said, there have been times where I've had to not see him because I was just getting
Mm,
over being ill. And like my brother had told me that he was ill again. So I had to be like, all right, well, I'm going to leave it. But you can't do that every other week.
yeah, it's not
I'd
good.
never see him otherwise.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it's a doctor. I mean, I know she's there to manage people's health, but I don't know. That seemed like
yeah,
crossing a line a bit.
yeah, a bit, yeah. It's basically just isolate yourself from your family.
Yeah, for the rest of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
feeling very under the weather for the last week. Had a couple of days off work
yeah,
sick
yeah,
on antibiotics.
yeah.
Um, so you probably see me muting my mic quite a lot in this podcast.
You do that quite a lot, to be fair.
That's because I
Uh,
seem to be sick more often than not in the last like 6 months, which is probably why she told me off.
I mean, if we had a dedicated fan base, I would suggest everyone like clip the amount of times Ross has muted his mic on a podcast. It would be an hour or so long,
It'd have to be a
like
super cut.
a compilation of Ross just muting his mic. So yeah, cool. Yeah, man. Like, so apart from being ill and stuff, anything else going on with your life?
Not really. Usual work and then going home from work
Mm-hmm.
and then just feeling too tired to do much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, been playing a bit more Avowed, which is very, very good. I finally
Mm-hmm.
unlocked the second region um, on Friday night, I think, a couple of nights ago. I think I've got like 20 hours in just the first region, and there's still like quests I haven't done. Um, enjoying that. I've been playing Trails of Cold Steel 2, so I very
Mm-hmm.
slowly make my way through the Trails series, which I started playing in, what, God, I can't even remember. The first game came out on PSP, so that's how long.
Mm,
Um, and then I went back to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I started in August 2022, and I've just kind of been plugging away at bit by bit for the last 4.5 years. And Assassin's Creed Shadows is out this week, actually, the 20th of March, I think, and I'm quite excited about it, but obviously I still have Valhalla and Mirage to get through. So I thought I could at least go back to that and finish off Odyssey because I was somewhere in the third episode of the second DLC, so I went and finished that off and then did like the crossover quest for Valhalla. So I'm finally finished with that game. It literally took me 4.5 years to play that game to get
mm,
through all of it. It's a very good game, but it's very long. I think I ended on like 120 something hours. So at least it's not hanging over my head anymore. And at some point I can start Valhalla. But I'm quite looking forward to Shadows. But me being the person I am, I won't allow myself to just go and play that when I've got two more games in between that I need to do. At least Mirage is like supposed to be like 20 hours. So
mhm,
I'll get to Shadows eventually. But at the moment, I just want to try and focus on Avowed a bit and get some of that done.
mm,
Because like South of Midnight and Expedition 33 are out soon. So I'd like to play both of those. But I think they're April.
mm,
But other than that, not been up to much. What
mhm.
about you?
Yeah, not too much to be honest. I'm not playing many games. We are playing Split Fiction on
Very
on
good
the old
fun.
YouTubes. Good fun so far. Enjoying it. It's from the same developer as It Takes Two and A Way Out. So they are specialists in online co-op games, and they seem to knock it out of the park every time they make a game. I think this is their third game
I think
that
so.
I think it is. I thought they made more, but I'm pretty sure this is only their third game. But even so, that's still pretty good. So yeah, it's one of the bright lights in an otherwise bleak uh last few months for EA. They haven't done too well. Obviously, Dragon Age: The Veilguard didn't meet sales expectations, and the EA FC Sports that hasn't done too well either. So there's not been many sort of big hits for EA, but this one's proved that this has been something good for EA. Obviously, EA will they 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 are their bread and butter is like sort of like the sports games and the Sims, but they've not been too well with their sort of single player. Their big IPs really. I think like Jedi Survivor, that was a good game. That is a good game. I don't think that met the sales expectations either. So yeah, they've lost quite a lot of money, EA. So hope like I mean, like I'm not trying to defend EA, but I still I want them to I want them to I want them to, I want the developers who are fall under their umbrella to have success. Because then it will encourage EA to spend more on like original IPs or let
Yeah.
the developers sort of create the games they want to create. Because as much as like Dead Space remake did really well, it still didn't sell very well. Unfortunately, not probably sold quite well if it was any other sort of publisher, but with EA, they expect him like monster fucking like sales
Yeah, I
to
can't remember off
justify
the
the
top of my head.
investments.
I can't remember off the top of my head what it sold, but I think I remember it seeming like a sort of a modest success.
Mm,
And then they just basically canned the franchise again straight afterwards. So
mm,
obviously it wasn't enough for them, which is a
mm.
shame because it was a good remake.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, it seems like like Capcom have been finding success with their Resident Evil remakes, and maybe EA thought we have a good horror franchise with Dead Space. Maybe we can also sort of find sort of like a good hit with one of our remakes. And I thought it was good. I think it was really good, to be honest. I thought it was really good. Um, but EA being EA, they're expecting ridiculously high like returns on their investments because they're not really like a gaming company that cares about like developers and gamers. They're there for making money. That's what they are. They're one of those ones. Even if they're like a game sells a few million, they expect double that for especially for like a big IP like say like Dead Space or Dragon Age or their you know their FIFA alternative. They expect like a big return on in market their investment. So all the marketing, all the covering the cost of development and advertising, they expect a big return. And unfortunately, if you don't make their expectations, it's deemed not successful. So
I mean,
yeah,
they shut down the entire studio that made the original Dead Space games.
yeah, of course, yeah,
Rip
absolutely.
Visceral Games.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about EA, not EA. Fuck, I'm not worried
BioWare.
about them. BioWare, because
I
as
think
you
we're
know,
all worried about BioWare.
we're big BioWare fans. I mean, I think BioWare was my favorite developer back in the golden age. Like even when EA took them over, like but before that, when they were like partnering with Microsoft, where they made like Knights of the Republic, Jade Empire, and before that they did like Baldur's Gate and stuff. I thought that was like some of their most creative and best sort of peak Bioware, and obviously they had Mass Effect. That was the original was a console exclusive with Microsoft. And then they did Dragon Age, Origins, Mass Effect 2, and they were just seemed like they couldn't do any wrong. And then now it's just I don't know,
Now
like
it kind of feels like they can't do anything right now.
right. And I think EA, I wouldn't pass it. I wouldn't put past EA to shut them down, but they do have Mass Effect in development, and if that is not a monster hit, that could be the end of BioWare because EA doesn't care about people gamers' sentimentality or affinity for a studio. They will
Yeah.
close them down. They
Look how
will.
many favorite studios they've shot in the head
Mm,
over the years.
yeah,
Probably more than anyone else.
they're all about the bottom line, man. It's all about money. That's all it is. They don't care if it's a cult classic or if it's sold relatively well. They need it to make big money, big numbers. They always have like a high bar, but not in terms of quality, but in terms of sales. Yeah, even though they like the like let's have it straight. Like their sports games are not very good, like in terms of quality, because it's the same thing. They reuse the same sort of assets. So, for the football games, like even Madden and stuff, it's the same thing every year. And I know because I've played like the FIFAs every year because I used to work for them, so I get free codes, and I was like, this is the same thing. Slight tweaks here and there. It's like when they're animations, like they would just reuse them but change certain things like backgrounds and stuff. But it's the same thing. Um, so they sort of been relying on the name brand and name recognition. But with
In
stuff
terms
like
of football games, they're pretty much the only game in town these days. Like Konami doesn't
well,
bother making Pro Evo anymore.
but like
It turned into eFootball first, didn't it? And then that was just awful
uh,
garbage.
but like unless like FIFA were asking for ridiculous amounts of money, and EA just said no, we'll just use our game engine and churn out our own version. So the only other developer may publisher could be 2K. They do the NFL NBA game, so they could possibly be do it, but obviously it hasn't happened. So maybe they're like turn their nose turn away from FIFA's like stupid the money they're asking to license their game. But yeah, I'm worried about Bioware. Ever since like Bioware fell under the EA umbrella, it's always like I hope this game's going to be a banger. Hope it's going to be good because like Jade Empire, that was made under the Microsoft sort of like deal. It didn't sell that great, but it was still a good game. It didn't like it should have been a 360 launch title. So like that was a mistake by Microsoft. And I think they've like I think some um the um the director of Jade Empire did come out and say it should have been a 360 launch title, and I agree. They shouldn't have like released it at the tail end of the original Xbox life cycle. It should have been, and I reckon it would have done better.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Um,
I played KOTOR on the OG Xbox, and then
mm,
when Jade Empire came out, I just didn't even pay any attention because it was like
mm,
360 was like the new thing right around the corner.
yeah,
If that had been a launch game, it would have got people buying it just for it being a launch game, let alone even like
yeah,
any quality of the game itself.
mhm.
But obviously, it was a good quality game as well. Deserved to do better.
Yeah. It's a good game, underrated, but it still survived. Still did well. Then they released, with Microsoft still being the publisher, released Mass Effect, and that was a massive hit. They still have faith, but with the failure of the Veilguard and Mass Effect Andromeda, and obviously Anthem,
God, Andromeda was so bad.
they need Mass Effect 5 to really knock it out of the park. So I'm hoping it'll do well.
I just don't
Um,
even know where they can go after like the end of three, unless they
yeah.
decide to focus on like the Leviathans or something. But even though I don't think
Well,
that's going to be an easy thing to do.
well, Liara's going to be in it, so they're going to have get characters who have a long life. So maybe it'll be Liara. Obviously, none of the humans will be alive. I don't think, unless I don't know how long they're going to set it after the. I think the destroy ending is going to be the canon ending.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
so maybe some Krogans. None of the not the what the
Solarians.
Solarians. They die. They got shorter lifespans than humans. Krogan, maybe hopefully Rex or Grunt will be in it. Um, but yeah, I think they're going to resurrect Shepard some way somehow.
Well, they've done it once.
Yeah, I would say like they could make Shepard the antagonist, but he's already been the end. They've already been the antagonist in the DLC of the Citadel DLC when there was that evil clone of Shepard. So I don't know what they're going to do with it, but
Hopefully, nothing that
uh,
silly.
hopefully not. No, but anyway, let's talk. Speaking of Xbox, let's talk about what been up to, Ross, because they've released some news, haven't they?
No, they
No,
haven't.
okay, no,
But insiders have on their behalf.
no.
Um, well, there was a rumor. I think it was like someone said the Call of Duty developers have access to the dev kit for the next Xbox, and they're sort of building the next, or like a future Call of Duty on that. So I think these games have like 3, 4 year dev cycles now.
Mm-hmm,
Now there's so many people making Call of Duty. So I think the suggestion was that like the 2027 Call of Duty was being developed on the new Xbox dev kit.
mm-hmm.
And Jez Corden of Windows Central on I think this was on his podcast with Randall Thorne, the Xbox Two podcast, said that that's not accurate and there is no dev kit for the next Xbox yet. Um, and he said the reason for that is that it's basically going to be a PC in a box, like running essentially Windows, but with like an Xbox shell over the top. And that is the plan for next gen. Um, so it
What's the
sounds
co-
a lot
what
like
What's the code name for this? Is there like I know there was a code name floating around.
there's a code name for another piece of hardware they're doing,
Yeah.
which we'll get to in a sec. But
Oh,
apparently, essentially, the it sounds like the idea for the Xbox next gen is basically Steam, what Steam tried to do like 10 years ago with the Steam machines and just sort of make consoleized PCs with kind of
mm,
like their own sort of OS layer on top of I can't remember now. Steam machines are a while ago. I think they were running Linux with like a
Yeah.
Steam over the top. But this for the Xbox, it'll basically be, like a console box with a PC in it, which to be
Hmm.
fair, the PS5 and the Series X essentially are that anyway. Although rather than like a separate, like discrete CPU and GPU, it's an APU that combines both, but they could still do that and make it a PC. Um, but literally running Windows, but with like an Xbox shell, and apparently they're working hard on making the gaming experience on Windows better so that you can sort of. So in Steam, you have like big picture mode where you can press a button, it turns into like a console OS. So I guess they're trying to do that kind of thing. I mean, it didn't work out for Steam, but then I suppose they took those learnings and made the Steam Deck. But we'll see. I mean, who knows? But the other thing, the thing that's come out with a bit more meat to the rumor is again the long-running rumor of the Xbox Handheld, and both Tom Warren from The Verge and Jez Corden from Windows Central have put some stuff out there about this, and it's called Project Kenan. I've seen people calling it Project Keenan, and makes me wonder if there's a Project Kel or a Project Orange Soda somewhere.
Hmm.
But it is Kenan, Kennan, and this is an Xbox handheld that's supposedly coming out this year, and but it is basically a PC, a handheld
Hmm.
PC like the ones that are out at the moment. And it's not actually being manufactured by Microsoft, it's being made by ASUS. So it's probably going to be much like a ROG Ally, which I have and I like. I have an Ally. And you played on the Ally X at MCM,
Hmm.
and you said thought it was pretty cool, but
Yeah.
not something you felt the need to buy, but you could see the appeal in
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think this is part of Xbox's strategy for play anywhere, isn't it? Anything could be an Xbox. They want like their games to run on smart TVs and stuff like that. So I could sort of see the reasoning behind it. I mean, Xbox have already putting out games on rival hardware. They've released Forza. I'm not sure which Forza they released on
What was it, Horizon
PlayStation.
5?
Yeah, and people are a bit annoyed because they have to have a Microsoft account to sign in and play it. Um, but there you are. So, but it's good that I'm glad that Xbox are not giving up on their hardware. That's what the fear was, that Microsoft were just going to become like a glorified publisher. They're releasing more games on PlayStation than PlayStation themselves. Um,
Certainly are this year.
yeah, I mean, I think PlayStation have got exclusive like from their developers two games, maybe. They got Death Stranding, but that's coming out on Xbox as well.
Well, it
Death
probably
Stranding
will at
2,
some point.
yeah. And Ghost of Yotai.
Yeah, Ghost of
Uh
Year 2.
yeah, that's the only two I know of. There's nothing else, I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe like another God of War remaster or remake of the original
No,
games.
listen, you're getting a Days Gone remaster, Paul. Days Gone.
Yeah,
A
but
game that everybody loves.
that's not even a physical copy of that. It's just got to be digital only.
That's because they know
And
nobody really wants it.
you if you got to pay like $40 or something like that, just if you got the previous version of it, just to get the upgrade.
No, I think there's
That
a $10 upgrade if you've got the last one.
oh really?
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah. But
I mean, it does seem like all they're doing is remastering stuff at the moment.
oh yeah,
Even
why
stuff that
wouldn't they?
people didn't particularly like. Like
Yeah.
Days Gone didn't do well enough to merit a sequel, and but you're gonna remaster it, I guess.
I mean they've remastered every game that they apart from not Demon Souls, they did that.
Bloodborne.
Bloodborne, yeah.
Yeah, they keep denying people the Bloodborne remaster they've been begging for well, pretty much 10 years since it came out.
I mean, yeah, getting back onto the Xbox hardware, especially their rumored new console, which is rumored to be released, rumored, I say, to be released in 2027,
I think
2027.
so, yeah.
Yeah. Um, like you said, PS5, the Series X, pretty much are like low end sort of PCs, and I kind of get that idea. They want to be broader. They want their this console to act more like a PC. The play anywhere functionality of it. That's what a good thing about a PC is just like, as long as the game's on like Steam or something like that, they can play it anywhere. You can play. And That's why they want the handheld as well. Because like handhelds died really. I mean, obviously you got the Switch, which acts as a handheld. You got the Steam Decks, and you got the other variants of that handhelds. They're doing pretty well. They're making a comeback.
Mm.
So I think
PC handhelds
Xbox,
are doing
mm,
pretty well, but like
yeah,
bespoke handhelds other than the Switch are basically dead.
yeah. I mean, like, what was the last one that PlayStation had? Was the
The
Vita?
Vita, I love
Yeah,
that thing. That's my favorite PlayStation console, and ironically, I love the
mm.
Vita. But,
And it's instead of making games specifically for a handheld, it's best to have the games you have in your library available for the handheld, so you can just play
mm.
anywhere. So
That's what
that
the
makes
big
more
deal with the
sense.
Switch was, really. It was like
Yeah.
these are, proper console games, and you can play them handheld, and that was why it was
Mm,
such a compelling idea at the time. And it's the same deal with like, I mean, the Steam Deck and like the ROG Ally and the MSI Claw and all that stuff. They're like a fraction of the size of the Switch's market, but for what they are, for like a niche market, they're doing pretty well. But
mm,
it's the same deal with them. It's like, it's the same games you've got on your Steam library, and now you can play them in handheld. And I
mm,
appreciate that. I mean, I have a Steam Deck and an Ally. Um, and this new one that Microsoft is working on with Asus, if it is effectively, because I've got the original ROG Ally, and then they brought out the X, which had like a slight spec bump, um, but it also had the ability to put a 2280 SSD in it, which is a lot cheaper than the 2230 ones that the first Ally uses, and it doubled the battery capacity. So that stuff I really wanted, but not enough to pick it up. And I've been saying to myself, if the Ally 2 is like a good spec bump and it has that stuff, then I'll probably buy that and sort of sell on my old one. If this Xbox branded one is basically the Ally 2, then I might well buy it. And
yeah.
it sounds like they're kind of using it as a bit of a test bed because they are also working on their own native Xbox handheld, which can play Xbox games. Because obviously this one is it's a PC, it'll play PC games. And like you said, the Play Anywhere stuff where you get like a dual entitlement. Um, but apparently they're also working on their own native Xbox one, which will play Xbox games, but that's apparently a couple of years away at this point. But then that makes me think, are you going to have like an Xbox PC handheld and then an Xbox handheld, and then you get some games on one and some games on another, but you can't get all the games on the one. And that
Mm,
makes me wonder also, I think from sort of logically what they're going to have to do, I think, especially if their next gen console is basically just going to be a Windows PC with like an Xbox OS shell on it, they're going to have to kind of like figure out maybe not emulation, but like maybe like a running a virtual machine on the new one that lets you play older games, and then maybe
yeah,
that's how they deal with back compat.
yeah, yeah. I still. It's a shame that they sort of not got given up on back compatibility, but that it's gone quiet with more back compat games. So I would like all my library
Mm, that would be the
from the
ideal.
OG to current gen to be playable because I got so many games.
Mm.
And it would encourage me to buy more physical games instead of digital because my digital, as I've got more digital this gen, but my hard drives have just been filling up so much. It kind of,
That's the
I do,
problem.
yeah, I kind of like do want to, like, I do like physical games. And I got a big library from OG, 360, Xbox One, and I kind of want them all to be back, especially the OG ones and the 360, like certain 360 games. Because like there's that Buffy the Vampire Slayer game that I remember we did a video for years ago in the early days of the channel, and
Mm.
I thought that was really good, good. And that was a Xbox exclusive. I'm like, why is that not back compat
I
yet?
imagine that's probably down to licensing with that one. Because a lot of
Maybe,
people
yeah.
wanted that game because,
Mm.
a lot of people remember that game fondly.
It's a really good game. Really good. It's one of my favorite games. I played that. I must have completed that 4 times. Like it was so good. And it always carried over your saves. So you went in there with all your stats maxed out. So I just like power through that game. Like it was such a fun game. And I really wish they would like um really focus back on their sort of making all their sort of console games exclusive games back compat on there because there were so many good ones, so many
Mm.
little gems on there. You know what I mean? There was a game called was it Sudeki, an RPG game,
Mm.
and no one talks about it, but it
Is that
was
the one with
really
the blue
underrated.
guy? He had like blue hair or something.
I think he did have blue hair. There was 4 characters in there: a guy with glasses, a girl, princess, an animal, sort of like warrior girl, and a guy. And yeah, there was like you play as like each section, like early sections, you'll play as them, like their own like sort of intro into it, and then you would join up and meet up. But that was a good game, and no one talks about that game, man. You know, and so there's a lot of Xbox OG games that I think are underrated and deserve to be back compat. More
You know what?
people can play
Speaking of
them.
that, an OG Xbox game, I think it was on PS2 as well, but an OG Xbox game that you'll at least know of anyway. I suddenly popped up all over the internet like last week. And I still don't know why. I just saw loads of people suddenly talking about it. You'll remember Red Ninja because you bought it and we were going to do a video of it. Suddenly, like last week, people were talking about it out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
just kept seeing it on like social media and everything, and like
yeah,
threads popping up on forums and stuff. And I was like,
yeah.
what? Yeah, that game just like popped up out of nowhere and it's suddenly all over social media. And I don't know what prompted it. But
Is it because? Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
it did make me remember when we used to, we haven't done this in a while. We used to go to like retro game shops. Presumably we haven't done it in a while because loads of them have closed down. But we used to
Mm,
go and like just pick up like curios and stuff and then make some videos of them back when we used to do more
mm.
OG Xbox stuff.
Well,
We always
we
intended to do a video of that and never got around to it.
yeah. Well, yeah, we do go to the gaming market, but that's become so
Busy.
crazily busy. We did a video last year, I think, because they're normally in March. Because I think there's one coming up. They do twice a year in London.
Yeah.
One in the sort of the in
I think it's like
March and
March and
one later on.
October or something, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
August, somewhere around
it's
there.
so popular now. It's just insane. Even like the last hour is just like you
Literally
can't
can't
really
move.
can't move. But yeah, we did speak about doing a video. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of secondhand game shops that are closed down. We were going to do like a challenge, like a little silly video of like X amount of money, see what game you can buy, like in maybe like CEX or our local one in Croydon, Play Nation, I think it was, and we'll just go around there and record ourselves like looking for a game for X amount of money and see who can get the biggest, like the best, the sort of best sort of retro game for this amount of money. Then we can sort of compare at the end. I mean, it can still do it, but it means like maybe going to Croydon, and that's
Who wants to do
like,
that?
well, that's a bit. You could take your life in your own hands there. As much as we love Croydon, and we do, like we've
Well, we
both
did.
we did,
Past
and
tense.
yeah, we're not born in Croydon. We're not really from Croydon, but we spent a lot of our time in Croydon, like Croydon Town Centre, not Croydon Borough. And we got a lot of fond memories for it because it was at one point really like really good place to go. A lot of bars, a lot of clubs, a lot of sort of alternative scene. The music scene was pretty thriving at one point, and it just all sort of just died, and it was a shame. And it's painful to watch, like seeing how bad it's got. Even though they're investing a lot of money in building new apartments and stuff,
Don't know why.
uh,
But
it's still not great. It's just you need a reason to go there, and at the moment, there's no reason to go there because it's pretty
unbelievably
bad.
depressing walking through the town centre now because like, half
Yeah,
the shops are boarded up.
exactly. But yeah,
Anyhow, that was a video idea we had and never did. So
yeah,
maybe eventually we'll do that.
we might still do it. We got a couple of video ideas that we got in the locker, and that still could be a video idea. It might not be done in Croydon. It might be done somewhere less
Shit.
not in shit, more like we can bring our phones out and not worry about it getting snatched. So um but yeah, yeah, Red Ninja, I've actually done a video on that. I had to buy like a sort of a not a sort of like something that allows my OG Xbox to be played on like a modern sort of TV. Um, and there is a video up on our channel, but the quality wasn't very good. So it was like a converter, so it converted like the like because I had to use a HDMI, but then so no, I didn't use a HDMI, did I? Yeah, I did use a HDMI, and it converted it from its old what did it use for the
Component,
old
wasn't it?
Xbox component? Yeah, so it sort of converted it, and it wasn't the quality, the video quality wasn't great, but
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot of those
I
like
had to.
component to HDMI and
Mm,
composite to HDMI converters are just they
not
just
great.
make it look really fuzzy and blurry.
Yeah. So yeah, I have done that. But yeah, there was a lot of OG Xbox games that should be back compatible, and it would be good for them to like to sort of like be played on modern consoles. It's just good to. I like the idea of having all your
Having one
old,
console that you can play everything on.
yeah, everything on. I think that's what Xbox want to do, and I think that's a good idea for them. I think they should pursue that idea.
It's a nice ideal.
Yeah, yeah. Because like let's look like Xbox have they bought a lot of studios, they bought a lot of publishers. There's even talk of them going after some Ubisoft games, because maybe Ubisoft may be selling some of their IPs because they're not doing that well.
Yeah, I saw this the other day.
Yeah, it's a
It
massive
sounds
rumor.
confusing. It
Mm,
sounds like they want to like make a separate entity
mm,
that owns their IP.
mhm,
So they'll affect it from what I could pass. It sounds
mm,
like they want to have like one company that's the studios and then another company that's like a holding
mm,
company for the actual IPs and then like have people like buy into it as investors.
mm. Yeah.
Sounds very weird, but it does sound like they're just throwing crap at the wall at the moment because they're kind of in dire
Mm,
straits. And
mm,
I hope for the sake of the 20,000 people that work at Ubisoft that Assassin's Creed Shadows is a huge success because their last few games have kind of flopped. Like Valhalla was a big hit, um, but then like the Avatar game flopped, Star Wars Outlaws flopped, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown flopped, and it just seems to be their games aren't doing the business outside of Assassin's Creed. I think Shadows will do well because Assassin's Creed always does do well, but they can't like sustain a 20,000 person business on one IP. But
yeah.
yeah, that's I hope that game does well.
It's it's a shame, like, because I know people have compared Xbox's recent RPG Avowed. It's done well. It sold well, but um, they're always the naysayers who saying it's not this or that. They're always comparing it to like, the really, really like sort of high bar games. Like everyone's always comparing every RPG to fucking Baldur's Gate. As much as I love Baldur's Gate, I love Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate was free. It's a great game, and I know you haven't got around to playing it yet, but you should. But I don't want every game to be compared to like the gold standard of every like sort of genre. Do you know what I mean? It's not really fair, and not every game is designed to be sort of like a Baldur's Gate or something like that, especially for like an RPG. You should just sort of rate the game on its own and not compare it to a Baldur's Gate, because not every game is a wants to be or, or was designed to be sort of that sort of role playing game. So I feel a bit bad. I feel bad for them, but I'm glad that Avowed is getting good reviews. It is getting, people are liking the game.
It's
It's
very
done
good.
well.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's
very
sold well.
actiony RPG
Yeah.
as well, so it's a very
And
different kind of RPG to Baldur's Gate.
and I always feel like people forget, like they've played Obsidian games. I play like like people play the Outer Worlds. I played the people played Fallout New Vegas, Knights of the Royal Republic 2, and and Obsidian have always been that sort of plucky studio that have always made good, compelling stories on sort of a low budget or time constraints and stuff like that. They've always done that, and now that they sort of had their, I don't know what it is like. There's always negativity with any sort of, I'm going to say it like with Xbox games, in particular. It's always like scrutinized more, if that makes sense. Is always sort of like that sort of like
I'm
fine
waiting
tooth
for the
comb.
Starfield Redemption arc when it comes out on
Mm,
PS5.
well, yeah, when that comes out on PS5, everyone's going to love it now. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It does seem like if a game, especially for an Xbox game, it has to be, I don't know, like there's always some sort of tax. I hate to say that word, but there is like a sort of like Xbox tax, and critics, fans, they, they it's like they, any sort of negativity, they focus on it. You know what I mean? Any sort of like, you can be critical of a game. Like not every game's going to be perfect, but they always point out like sort of like an one critical part and sort of really latch onto that. And
Unfortunately, that's internet discourse in a nutshell.
yeah,
I think it's a lot
and
simpler in that people have just got used to dunking on Xbox and then they just enjoy dunking on Xbox. So literally nothing that they do will ever be good enough at this point because all they care
yeah,
about is just dunking on the platform. But
I mean,
yeah, it's
for
childish, but that's console wars for you.
I mean, it's like people with like sort of character models. And this is like a bit of a tangent. They If the character models are not sort of like sort of like I got to like compare it to like a game like games like Stellar Blade, where the character model is like it's titillating. It's pleasing to the eye for, and it's like a sexual sort of character. It is like there's no thing. People seem to like that, but if a game's released and the character's not like a hot sort of
Blow up doll.
female character, yeah. I mean, I don't want to like the game looks good. Stellar Blade. I can't deny that. And you got games like um near Automata. The characters like she is sexualized, but that happens. But not every game has to be like the character's got to be like some sort of like hot sort of sex sexualized blow up doll. I mean, like what was her name? Character with glasses.
And
Bayonetta. Yeah, she was sexualized, but people like that. But
she's
it
also
seems
kind
like
of grotesque in her proportions, though. Like her
yeah, it's
proportions are
all over the
just
place, like long
mental.
legs, and it is silly. It is silly, and that's the whole point. She was a bit silly, but it seems like you either like games are in a camp of like if they're not meet sort of certain ideals of how a character should look, and if they're good looking and stuff like that, and you got the other characters who are just like, normal, like not every character has to be like a fucking catwalk, sort of like page three sort of sec, like, you know what I mean? You can have both, and you can have one in the other. Not all of them has to be like big titted, you know what I mean? Like hypersexual characters. Um, and it's like that sort of like people like sort of just say, oh, that's a mark of a good game if the character's hot, and if they're not, it's not good. So
That's an incredibly
mm,
vapid kind of
mm,
read on things, isn't it? If a
uh,
character isn't conventionally attractive, the game must suck.
uh, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Like there are
mm,
games come out with people that just look like normal people, and they get kind of torn to shreds by morons, quite frankly.
mm.
Uh,
I mean, like if you look at like a classic like sort of PlayStation game, Last of Us, Joel was he's just a ragged man. You know what I mean? Like, but so what? So is he supposed to be like a hot, like Pitt looking guy? Is
oh,
it
it's
because
not the
he's a
male
male?
characters. Male characters
That's
can
it.
get away with
Yeah,
being anything, but
yeah.
it's. I mean, you saw like when the remaster came out and they remodeled Tess to
Mm,
make her look more like Annie Wershing, I think the name is
mm,
the actress. People went ballistic
mm,
because she looked like close to, well, she looked close to the age she should be in the
mm,
game, and she looked like her mocap model, the
mm,
actress that played her, and people went ballistic. And then people went ballistic about The Last of Us 2, where Abby is muscular and
to be fair,
and Ellie's in a gay
she
relationship.
yeah. To be fair, Abby was a brick shithouse, man. That was she was
She was, yeah.
fucking fucking massive. Like I wouldn't want to tangle with her, mate. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. That was the
Yeah.
point. That was the entire point that the character was supposed to portray. Like she spent her entire adult life just bulking out so that she could go and do what she needed, felt
How
she
does she
needed to do.
how did she bulk out so much? Like, there's no protein shakes or stuff in the
Well, there
post
might be.
apocalypse,
I don't know. She was in part of a
unless she's on
faction that was very
steroids.
well
Yeah, but like,
provisioned,
no one else was like bulked out like her. She was like, you know what I mean? Like she's got to be on steroids, mate. You know what I
possibly. But I
mean?
mean, it
Where'd
speaks
she
to
get
the.
these steroids?
I mean, well, who knows? But it speaks to the idea of her being single-minded about what she wanted to go and do,
Oh
which
yeah,
we saw in the opening of the
yeah,
game, which also
yeah.
people lost their shit over. But
Mm, mm.
anyway, we're
Uh,
wildly off
yeah.
track.
What were we talking about again? Oh,
Well, you were talking about backwards compatibility and
and
something I
Xbox
wanted to,
hardware.
yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
backwards compatibility, when they stopped that program, they did say that the team was being sort of repurposed to do something else.
Mm,
And I think what they've been repurposed to do is to like make Xbox games work on Windows for this new sort of hardware that's coming out, where it's like
mm,
PC in a box, literally. Because people have always said, "Oh, Xbox is like built on Windows." It kind of isn't. It's its own sort of OS. I think it's like the Windows kernel, but everything else is like specific. Whereas these new ones are literally going to be essentially running Windows under the hood, just with an Xbox OS shell on it. So I think they've been repurposed to like figure out how to get these Xbox games from prior generations running on Windows for this, because it's going to really suck. Like they're going to have trouble selling hardware next gen anyway because they don't have any exclusives anymore. Um, and it's going to be even more DOA if it can't play your existing library. So I think that's probably why they got taken off the back compat project, to figure out how to make that work instead.
yeah.
Because that's the only way this kind of makes sense going forward, is if you can actually access like your historic library of games. Because people have, invested thousands. I mean, like you said, you've got games going back to the OG Xbox, so have I. I've got OG Xbox games. I've pared back my 360 collection a bit. You can't actually see it in this shot, but I think I've still got over 100. And then like behind me is Xbox One and series on these two shelves. And there's well over 100 of those. if I can't play any of those, it's going to suck. Because I still do replay old games, unlike some people. So I hope at least that's the project they got moved on to.
Well,
Um,
it does make sense, like because with PC you can play like they have the old versions of the games, and I think Xbox is just looking at that and going, well, we got to have like our old copies of our old games where people can just have a bit massive library and play their old discs and all the old backwards compatible game, all the old games, which they should do. So I kind of like that everything in all in one place, just gathering everything every generation, having it all there, and you just boom play, put your old disc in, or you know, hopefully like they don't get rid of physical. I just don't want to like only digital sort of future, even though I have gone digital a lot, only because like I'm an
Space.
old person. I'm an old man, and I've been collecting games for a very long time. And um, I I have got like I'm looking like I do still want there to be generations of, especially like for consoles and stuff, because it's always good to see the evolution of like the consoles. Like obviously, I don't own a PS5, but I've owned every like PlayStation up to PS4. I do like to see the evolution of it, and it would be nice that they carry on with the physical discs and stuff like that. Um, Obviously with Nintendo, it's like I'm going off again, but they've had so much variation, cartridges, the
Small
whatever the
discs, big
small
discs.
discs, the little SD sort of things they have for Switch. So yeah, so it's kind of harder for them to do it. And but yeah, with sort of like Xbox, I can sort of see them. They do want to sort of copy the sort of the PC sort of template. It does sort of more make sense. They're looking at Steam about going, oh, we just wish we just can have everything there. They want to buy these games, they can do that and they can play that. If they already own a game, that's good for them. They can play that and have the upscaled version of their old games. So it does, and that could be like a good appeal. Like you said, they sort of seem to have given up with their exclusive games, even though they're still got a lot of like games in development and stuff. Like we got South of Midnight and Fable. The remake that's been delayed to 2026, which is a shame. But what I've seen of it looks good. So if they still got to work on it a bit more, because that seems to be their big sort of like you know
Here's our
um
big modern open world RPG.
yeah, and it looks good. I see
Does look very
the
good.
I see the alpha gameplay for it. It looks really good, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. Again, you got people complaining about the character model on there and stuff like that. I'm just like they've uglified her because it's based on on a actual actress and stuff. But again, there you go. If it's not someone in a girl in a tight sort of fitting outfit with big bosoms, you know, men, we just like get really angry and shitty with it, and go, oh, the game must be shit then because the girl's not like making
Half
my
naked.
yeah making me like aroused and stuff. So there you are. But come on, guys, yeah,
Go out and meet a woman.
yeah, go out meet a woman, and I'm pretty sure that.
And don't be a
But
creep
with
when you do.
yeah, I'm pretty sure with the Fable you be able to character create because that's from Fable 2 onwards you were be able to character create.
Still wonder if they can do like the character morphing thing with you being good or evil. That'd be interesting to see.
That'll be good. Yeah.
But anyway, when will this
Anyway.
new Xbox hardware be announced? Presumably it's too
Hmm.
soon for the proper console this year. Probably let's assume maybe the sort of E3 replacement next year for that. But if the
Yeah.
Asus handheld is coming out this year, do wonder when that's going to be announced.
Maybe there was talk about it coming out this year, sometime this year. I mean, I do want to get a handheld, and I've been tempted, but having something where I can play my library. Like I have been tempted to get a Steam Deck because my 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 girlfriend at the moment, she has a Steam Deck, and I've tried it and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's smooth, nice, good. Um, it's it's just like I have to justify it to myself to spend that kind of money, and will I play it? And if if it does have like if I can like have import my sort of library to it and stuff like that, that would tempt me. So I do like the play anywhere sort of idea where you can have your profile and sort of set up and play play anywhere. But it, yeah, that seems like to be like Xbox's like sort of idea, isn't it? Where anything could be an Xbox sort of idea. Which when I saw it, I was like, oh,
Hmm.
are we ready for that? Xbox have had some radical ideas,
Microsoft
especially
do tend to come flying out the blocks with things too early. Like they were too
yeah,
early. They were too early to smartphones, despite what people think. Like
mm,
they were there making smartphones before Google or Apple, but they just
mm,
weren't very good.
mm,
Um, they were making tablets before the iPad. Again, they just
uh,
weren't very good.
yeah,
Um, you know, they were they tried to go like very digital with the Xbox One, and there was a huge backlash, which is completely
mm,
understandable backlash.
yeah,
But now most people are digital only and constantly and like connected online
mm,
all day, every day. Um,
mm.
if someone did that now, there'd probably still be a bit of a backlash, but it'd be markedly less so, I think.
That's so yeah,
But they do tend to like have these ideas and then come out with them way too early, like Connect and
mm,
Cortana as well was there before like Alexa was in everyone's home.
mm-hmm,
And they tend to put out they tend to have the ideas, but then the
mm,
execution is kind of lacking, and then they come out
mm,
and they're not very fully featured, and then
yeah,
somebody else steals their lunch. So
yeah,
yeah, they might well be to this device agnostic era way
mm-hmm,
too early to their own detriment. I think
yeah,
the likelihood is they probably will be.
mm,
Um, they're trying to. It feels like they're trying to move the industry to that point by putting all their games on everyone else's console, but the others don't have to move, and they're not going to
mm,
move. You're not going to see Nintendo games on Xbox. You're not going to see PlayStation games on Xbox outside of a couple of very, very rare things like MLB The Show. Um,
but
it's they're
yeah,
basically devaluing their own platform for
I
at
mean,
this point very little.
PlayStation are slowly releasing more games on PC. Not very good ports, to be fair. I
Well,
know,
some of them are
like,
good ports and some of
mm,
them are bad ports that they need months of fixing.
yeah,
But they need to move to doing it a lot quicker. Like there shouldn't be like a year or 2 years in between releasing on
yeah.
PlayStation and releasing on PC. They're very conservative with that.
I mean, PlayStation are not really their release for this year is not great. Um, it's not. I think Ghost of Yotai, Lost Soul aside, I think is another one, but
In terms of their own
um,
internal studios, the only one
mm,
I can think of is Ghosts of Yote.
yeah. So still not a lot, but um, it costs a lot to develop games, man. Let's face it, especially if
Especially the
you're
ones they make.
yeah, those
They
big
are
sort of
very
triple A.
expensive games.
Yeah, they seem to have given up on live service games, obviously with the failure of Concord. That cost them a lot of money. So everyone's and there have been a lot of layoffs as well within the game industry. Sony have not sort of been sort of they've lost a lot of staff as well. So it's happening to everyone. But Yeah, I think we're going to leave it there, Mr. Ross. What do you think? I think that's a good place to leave it.
Indeed, still big
I mean,
question marks in the air about what
mm,
Xbox is
we,
going to look like next gen, but I think we'll get some indications soon. Like with
yeah,
this handheld is supposed to be out this year. I think it will give us some idea of what they're intending to do because
mm,
apparently they're working with like PC OEMs to make Windows more gaming friendly, and I think this is kind of like going to be a bit of a proof of concept as to what they want their platform to look like going forward. So I
mhm.
think I think this, whenever it comes out, supposedly sometime this year, will clear things up a bit, but
Yeah,
still very up in the air.
yeah, indeed. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, Ross. Um, yeah. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This podcast is available on all plat podcast platforms, apart from Apple Music. Boo you, Apple Music. That's it, Mr. Ross. Thumbs down. But yeah, if you like our content, think about subscribing to our channel. We will be continuing Split Fiction. We will have another video coming up this week. So you have two videos. You have this podcast, and you'll have Split Fiction Part 2 coming up.
Spoiling
Uh,
people,
yeah, we are, and also we'll be doing some more stuff outdoors. Obviously, we want to
aka the
carry.
content people watch.
Yeah, we our stuff we do, which doesn't include video games, is more popular than our video game content. But we will be doing a video in London, and hopefully, like we'll revive the buy games from secondhand stores for the X amount of money. But yeah, so we're going to leave it there. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye. Say bye, Rose.
Bye.
Yeah. Dun, dun.